Good evening, everyone. I see it's 7 o'clock, but let's give a few more minutes for people to dial in since we're coming out of a previous meeting, and then we'll get this first board meeting started. All right, let's get started here. I think it's now 7:02 p.m. So we have been in executive session, as you can see on the screen. So therefore, this meeting is actually already in progress. We have called the roll. But however, since we are coming out of it, Miranda, if you could just call the roll again to ensure that all the trustees have made it back from refilling our water bottles.
Yep. Mayor Larson.
I'm here.
Trustee Apt.
Here.
Trustee Coombs Ismail.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Baumhover.
Here.
Trustee Danforth.
Here.
Trustee Corvallin.
Here.
And please note for the record that Trustee Taylor is absent.
All right, and happy 2021, everyone. Welcome back. I don't know, it doesn't look too much different than 2020 as yet, but it's good to be moving on away from that year and moving forward in Nederland. We have 3 items on the consent agenda tonight: the warrants, the minutes from our meeting in November, and also a MOU regarding COVID relief grant funding. Does anyone from the board have questions or comments regarding the consent agenda? Not, do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion from Trustee Danforth. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second from Mayor Pro Tem Baumhover. Miranda.
Mayor Pro Tem Baumhover.
Yes.
Trustee Coombs Ismail.
Yes.
Trustee Apt.
Yes.
Mayor Larson.
Yes.
Trustee Danforth.
Yes.
Trustee Corvallin.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. The consent agenda passes unanimously. Public comment section of our agenda. If anyone in the public would like to speak on any item not on tonight's agenda, now would be your opportunity. Please unmute yourself. *6, right, Miranda?
Correct. Yep.
*6 if you're on the phone, or unmute yourself. I see a hand up from Ms. Chipai. Please unmute yourself and you can have 3 minutes of public comment. Okay, anyone else while we're waiting Anyone else from the public like to comment?
She did send an email to the town staff. If you'd like me to read that, she might be having some technical difficulties.
Sure.
She said, I wanted to thank the mayor for confirming he did not tell any business owners in town that the BOT was considering fining businesses over patrons who do not wear a mask in their businesses. I was happy to read the minutes and see he's concluded that it is incumbent upon everyone to speak out against misinformation when we hear, see, or read it. I agree wholeheartedly and promise town can expect to receive documentation in this regard from me per problems with the certified code in the near future.
Okay. Anyone else from the public like to speak? Okay, we will move on into our action items this evening, beginning with a highway safety improvement program grant opportunity. So it's going to be introduced by our Public Works Director.
Yep.
All right,
Go.
welcome, Chris.
Thanks. Thank you, board and the mayor, and Happy New Year. So tonight I'm looking for approval to apply for a Federal Highway Safety Initiative grant administered through CDOT. And contrary to what the name implies, it's targeting local roads that are non-state owned. There's $2.6 million available for this region, which is a relatively small amount of money for projects like this. Projects are evaluated on whether a crash pattern can be corrected. And so in this particular project, there really is no crash pattern. However, I think preemptively, I could make an argument to prevent future crashes. Also, a portion of these funds are set aside for vulnerable users. And I think a strong case could be made for that pedestrians are vulnerable in this particular intersection that I'm targeting. The project I'm proposing is adding a right-hand turn lane on Lakeview Drive. In your packet, I provided analysis of this intersection from 2018. And in this analysis, this intersection was identified as a worthwhile improvement. Also, it's a stated goal in the DDA master plan, and I also added that page in your packet that shows that identified within their plan. And furthermore, I've gotten feedback from the public over the years of the dysfunction of this intersection, and have received suggestions of how it could be improved. The funding criteria requires a 10% match. Based on the cost analysis in the traffic study in your packet, and allowing for 2% cost increases over time, I've estimated the cost of the project be $303,372, which would require a match of $30,337. So tonight, I'm not only asking for support to submit this grant, but also I'm looking for support to request matching funds from the DDA, and I'm going to present this project with your direction, that is, at their next meeting on the 13th. So that concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Chris. I'll open this up for questions for Chris from trustees. We'll just go reverse order, beginning with Tanya.
Yeah, I'm 100% in support of this.
Okay, there we go. Lindsay.
So just to clarify, you were mentioning getting matching funds from the DDA. Is that the condition for moving forward, is if they agree?
Yes.
Okay. It's my only question for the moment.
Mayor Pro Tem Baumhofer.
I'm in support of this. As Chris mentioned, this has been discussed by DDA. It was potentially discussed with putting into the traffic project that we approved a month and a half ago. I guess my only question for Chris is there room for this? And I'm assuming that $300,000 figure you just stated also includes rerouting the sidewalk that's there, because I'm assuming that we cannot get a turning lane in there without some work to whatever tungsten trail that is and bringing that back a little bit.
Yes.
And so there's room there between the lodge's property, CDOT, and for us to still have a right of way for pedestrian trail.
I believe so. I don't have the traffic study right in front of me, but they did provide a depiction or a concept in that plan that does fit within the right of way.
Okay. Then yeah, I'd be all in support of this project and hope that we could get one out in Big Spring sometime in the next few years.
All right, thank you, John. Trustee Coombs Ismail.
Yeah, in the study that was provided with this, there were 4 scenarios presented as potential solutions to that intersection, and I wasn't sure if this was scenario 1, I believe, adding auxiliary lanes from Lakeview to the highway, and I'm just wondering if that is the preferred scenario, and if not, if this would preclude sort of addressing some of the other concerns that the other scenarios address as well in the future.
The optimum solution is the mini traffic circle. I think that's scenario 4.
Right.
It seemed to be the most cost effective and provide the best level of service, meeting fewer cars backed up and fewer wait times associated with heavy times of traffic. That would be the best case scenario. And then potentially, this project and the funds put towards this project could be a sort of throwaway if we were to ever go down that road. However, I don't foresee funds in the near future to put that traffic circle in. That doesn't mean something won't come up at the last minute where it might be a viable option. But and then also in scenario 1, they show I think a left-hand turn on the highway, and I'm really just proposing a right-hand turn lane only, and not changing any of the traffic patterns within the highway itself, since this fund doesn't really cover highway improvements unless CDOT wanted to join in on the project. So it may actually be less than that 300,000.
Yeah, that was my follow-up question. Was basically whether or not this is the best way. You guys feel like this is the best way to proceed. Obviously, otherwise it wouldn't be before us. But whether or not it was considered to reach out to CDOT and see if they would be interested in submitting this with us and submit for one of the preferred scenarios in this report.
I haven't reached out to them yet. I want to talk to you guys first, and then present to the DDA. I know that DDA is hesitant on spending too much money. Now, this is out in 2022, where they may have more funds secured by then, since there are other upcoming projects that they're committed to. But that's certainly a consideration.
Yeah, I could say that just from my perspective, just from what I don't know too much about, this grant and our likelihood of getting it, it seems like it might be pretty low if it's based on accident patterns, which we don't really have. But if if we can talk to CDOT and try to put through a grant for one of the preferred scenarios here, rather than maybe one of the less preferred, I'd be interested in pursuing that and then doing this plan that you presented here as a fallback. That's just my thoughts.
Well, there is still one more meeting between when I have to submit the grant and in the next BOT meeting. So I can, assuming I have support from you guys, and after I talk to the DDA, I'll reach out to CDOT, and if it does seem like an option and they're willing to put money towards this, I could come back to you guys for an increased version or an option to construct option 4 in that analysis.
Okay, thanks. That's all the questions I had.
Thank you, Eric. Trustee Apt?
All of my questions have been answered, and I am supportive. So thanks, Chris, for looking at these kind of creative solutions.
All right. Thank you, everyone. I do have a couple quick questions here, Chris, coming in last. Quite been answered. Referring back to the Lakeview traffic study, where you guys analyzed scenarios 1 through 4. I think it specifically calls out in there that scenario 1, the proposed bit of just a right turn lane on Lakeview, does not improve the level of service.
Okay.
That was just, this is the analysis from a few years ago where you looked at the turn lane, the 4-legged intersection, the traffic light scenario, and the roundabout scenario. And a couple years ago, you came to the conclusion that while scenario 1, this one, offers a relatively inexpensive short-term solution, it is not a long-term solution, which you've mentioned again here tonight. And I guess I'm looking at this, and it doesn't include any turn lanes off of the peak to peak. It is just that one little 40-foot section of turn lane on Lakeview for, probably not 300,000. It'll probably be less since it doesn't include the CDOT. But I guess my initial feeling on this is that doesn't really solve any of the problems we see in that intersection. The problems we see are cars backing up because of trying to turn onto Lakeview or onto or out of the ACE parking lot. I don't think that's a road there. So I guess my gut feeling is that we should really we shouldn't be pursuing this because it's available, this grant opportunity, but should be working with CDOT to try and go back to that scenario 4, the little mini roundabout solution, which the analysis did have you said was the best increase in the level of service among the 4 scenarios, particularly on the weekend traffic loads. So you mentioned that there's another meeting where you might be able to gain more support from or work with CDOT and see if they were interested in pursuing this. Do you think that's a possibility, or is CDOT just overwhelmed with things elsewhere and not caring about one intersection in our little town?
Well, a little bit of both. I can reach out to them prior to your next BOT meeting, I think on the 19th, which would give me an opportunity to update you on where they're at. Mm-hmm. They do have a project lined out. They move very slow.
Yeah.
So it takes them many years to make a plan for a project. And right now they are planning on repaving the 3 miles from the traffic circle south in 2022. And they're submitting those plans in May of this year. So that just gives you, and that's just a simple repaving job, but it gives you an idea of how long it takes for them to move through this process.
If they're looking at repaving in a year, year and a half from now, that might also be an opportunity to do something more.
That's correct. Yeah. And go ahead.
I mean, my feeling on this is for potentially $300,000, of which, of course, only like, as you said, 10% is only the town money. The rest would be CDOT money, but also the time and effort it would take to put together a grant proposal on where we know CDOT's one of their big criteria are traffic safety and reduction in accidents, which we don't really have data on for this. My current feeling is that this is maybe not where we need to be spending our effort. And I would rather see us put that effort to a long-term solution, a real solution, rather than a turn lane that just paves a little bit of ground and doesn't really address the traffic. But that's where my current feelings are. And if there's an option that we can get more information from CDOT, maybe more information from what they're looking at and what their plans are, like you said, then I would vote on sort of tabling the idea of this for right now until we got that information.
I know that Chris and I had talked to CDOT about this intersection, and they had done that study for us and showed us the different options. And at that time, when we were talking to CDOT, they were saying that you had to get on a calendar. And Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm thinking it's for 4 or 5 years of planning. And I believe this intersection made it to the next 4 or 5 years. And I think this 4 or 5 years, the current one we're in, I think ends in 2024. Chris, have I got my numbers right?
That's correct.
Yeah, so they are aware of it. We have been advocating for this with them. We even met with the CEO of CDOT, and we also met with the CEO of Dr. Cog. And so I just want to make that clear. And Julie Gustafson, former Mayor Pro Tem, used to attend some of these Dr. Cog meetings with me. So we are putting it out there. Just like every year when we have this annual meeting, we talk about the need for a second bridge in town and so on and so forth, even though it's really not CDOT's problem. But I still always put it out there. So it has been put in front of them. I just wanted to give you guys kind of a summation of how CDOT works and how their schedule is currently set.
Okay.
And I totally agree with you, Mayor, that I would prefer the traffic circle. It's more bang for your buck, and if the amount of energy you have to put into it, that's the true improvement. However, considering this is really low-hanging fruit, and the funding available for this particular project are kind of small, and it's not very competitive. And it's also identified in the DDA's master plan that I thought it would be an opportunity to get at least a little something done for a relatively small amount of money. So that's sort of why I brought this forward tonight, and hopeful that maybe we can make a small improvement.
All right, that sounds good. If you're true on this, I want to throw it up. This is an action item, so I'm going to throw this open to public comment on this. If anyone from the public would like to comment on this grant proposal, now would be your opportunity.
Hi, this is Hope Jordan from the NDDA. This has always been a really exciting plan. Chris introduced it to the DDA or the NDDA, at least the traffic circle part, back in June of 2019. And I think that the board is, from what I perceive, really super supportive of it. The right-hand turn lane does sound really exciting, and it sounds like that it's right. I don't know if the board knows anything about the $30,000 at this point, but I think that they were looking somewhere around 20,000 or so for just a right-hand turn lane until a traffic circle could come to fruition. So it was kind of like a Band-Aid until that big final moment. So it's great to hear that this is all in progress, and thanks, Chris, for moving this kind of stuff forward.
Thanks, Hope. Anyone else from the public like to weigh in?
This is Dawn Baumhover, talking as a resident, not as a town employee. And I would be in favor of as a resident of the town of Nederland, of a right-hand turn lane, because coming out of the shopping center, just about any time, especially on a weekend, you can sit there it would serve the local residents. It wouldn't help to clear the traffic on the highway so much, but you wouldn't have to, if there was a right turn lane, even if you wanted to go right, you could go right around the traffic circle and then get in the line, and you wouldn't be sitting there while all the ski traffic was coming down. So it definitely would improve the flow of traffic out of the shopping center for local residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Don. Any other members of the public? If not, we'll bring this back to the Board of Trustees. Board, comments, thoughts, further ideas, or if anyone would like to move us forward with a motion, now would be a good time. I'm going to just open this up. So trustees, please speak up and we'll call on you each again.
So I got
Oh, go for it.
Jonathan. I'll try to serve as gatekeeper, but you know.
Yeah. My thoughts are we should really go for this now. Hearing kind of how CDOT works, a roundabout there might be beneficial. I could also see it having some really unintended consequences, such as having to redo all the drainage in that area. I'm not sure if folks pay attention to when we get real big snows and strong rainstorms, that it's pretty much a puddle across that whole area, because where that intake drain is in front of the bank is actually not the lowest point of that grade. The middle of the road is. So I imagine that could create some more havoc, and I could not imagine trying to build a roundabout on Highway 119 through town until we have another bridge across town, if we're talking about relieving traffic. So I think this is a real nice Band-Aid as we take a step back and look at the next decade of what are going to be the increase in traffic that we're going to see. And building a right turn lane there would not hinder traffic flow through town. Whereas if we kick this down the road another 5 years, maybe did get our dream of a roundabout, I think it would be a nightmare trying to handle traffic flow while building that roundabout. So I'd like to see us go for this right now and kind of as the BOT approve this, and hope that the DDA would be willing to fund the matching grant. And if we were able to get this grant, I think this would be a drastic improvement. Even if it was just for 3 years, I think it's well worth it for our locals.
All right. Thank you, Jonathan.
I second Jonathan's motion.
Yeah, I also want to add, I want to fully agree with Jonathan about that second bridge aspect, that should go first before a roundabout. And then I also would recommend that before anybody pushes for a roundabout, that they do a accident study regarding the roundabout we have right now. That I feel like I know several people have been T-boned there. I personally am more for turning lanes than I am for another roundabout in that town in the middle of the highway. And I'm all for this right-hand turn lane. I have been stuck there for 10 minutes trying to make a right-hand turn. This will definitely help some of us in our town for very low amount of money put in.
Yeah, I just want to go into it as clear-eyed as possible in terms of what our long-term vision is versus what the short-term solutions might be. So, you know, just from what I understand, that the study basically says if a signalized four-legged intersection is the way that we go in the future, scenario one, building auxiliary lanes like this one would actually contribute to that final vision, right? So I guess that was scenario 3 in this study. So if what we ended up doing was realigning the bank parking lot and the Lakeview there and making a four-way signalized intersection, then this auxiliary turn lane would actually be a benefit to that in the future. If we went for a roundabout, then this would be a throwaway, right? This right-hand turn lane would eventually become kind of void and not exist anymore. It would go away, and we would have spent the 30 grand, but maybe we would have gotten a number of good years out of that 30 grand of reducing the traffic there. I mean, they did say it would reduce it from 160 feet potentially backed up to 40 feet on a high traffic Saturday. So, I mean, that sounds pretty good to me to get out faster, and I do think it would be beneficial to residents. But I just want to make sure that we all are understanding this properly, that I'm understanding it properly. That we might go for a roundabout, but we also might have to end up with a four-way intersection, in which case this auxiliary turn lane would actually be part of that anyway, and so we would be building towards our final solution to begin with. So I guess we don't know what our final way of addressing this is going to be, but it could be that signalized intersection, and in that case, this could be part of that effort. I guess that's a question for Chris. Sorry, Chris. Like, am I understanding this properly? Is that what we're looking at here?
Yes. However, what I'm proposing doesn't necessarily realign the intersection, and that's what would be needed to create that signalized intersection. So there would still be some changes that would have to be made. But you're right, we'd be moving closer to that scenario.
Would anyone like to make a motion?
I motion to approve Chris Peltier, head of Public Works, to move forward with this grant opportunity.
And do you want to include the
I second it.
DDA part? I think there was also the request to have him go to the DDA to address the DDA as the 10% match.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Hopefully Miranda can clear up the information.
And did I hear a second there from Lindsay?
Yes.
Okay. Miranda.
Trustee Apt. Trustee Apt.
Yes.
Trustee Danforth.
Yes.
Trustee Coombs Ismail.
Yes.
Mayor Larson.
They changed my mind. Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Baumhover.
Yes.
Trustee Corwin.
Yes.
And motion passes. All right. Good luck, Chris.
All right, thank you. And I'll still reach out to CDOT and get a feel for future improvements to that intersection, what their appetite is to be contributing to that.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks.
Moving on to our second action item, which is one of those pro forma things we get to do every January, passing resolution 2021-1. Miranda, you want to explain this?
Yes, so this is pretty brief. The Colorado Open Meeting Laws requires that there's notifications of all meetings, and that occurs 24 hours in advance. The open meeting laws also require that the governing body establish where the posting place will be, and that occur annually. Town hall is typically where we do our posting. We also do courtesy postings at the post office, on our website, and social media. But the resolution before you is to make town hall the official posting location for 2021. I'm just looking for the board to approve or give comments on resolution 2021-01.
Do any board members have questions or comments regarding this for town staff? This is an action item, so I will also open up the floor now if anyone from the public would like to comment on where we post our official meeting notices. Not hearing or seeing any. I'll bring it back to the board and see if anyone would like to make a motion regarding resolution 2021-1.
Motion to approve resolution 2021-01.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Second from Trustee Danforth. Miranda.
Trustee Coombs Ismail.
Yes.
Trustee Apt.
Yes.
Trustee Danforth.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Baumhover,
Yep.
Trustee Corvallin,
Yeah.
Mayor Larson.
Yes. Resolution is passed. All right. That concludes the action items this evening. We have one discussion item on the table, which is an update on Nederland businesses and COVID-19.
Yeah, so Karen and I just wanted to take a minute just to kind of bring you up to speed on what's happening with the businesses. In the packet, I did include an email from Boulder County that notified businesses that they were moving back to level orange, and that happened yesterday. The biggest changes, I would say, that impact our community is that restaurants were able to open back to in-person services at 25% their occupancy or 50 people, whichever is lesser. And for us, more often than that, that's 25% capacity. And then gyms were also able to open back up at that similar capacity rate. So in the packet, you'll see the email that has tons of different options for businesses, as well as the restriction capacity. So as we move between colors, you can see what those are. As we continue to receive notifications like that, we do send them out to all businesses. Back in June, the board approved me to do temporary use permits and temporary license agreements, which primarily allowed businesses to use outdoor spaces for dining purposes. So I gave kind of a brief overview of where we are with each of the businesses that have one. They all had an initial award, a permit issued to them from June that expired 120 days later. I did another extension. We are coming up on the end of that extension for most of these businesses. That'll end in February. So I am going to continue to do extensions unless the board has concerns. The Liquor Enforcement Division is still allowing businesses to sell alcohol outdoors in their modified premise. So we still are in compliance with state laws. We want them to be able to continue to be creative with their spaces that they're using. So again, I did outline those businesses. And I'm just going to turn it over to Karen to do kind of a brief overview of this 5-star certification program.
Super, thank you, Miranda. Do you mind putting up that PowerPoint?
Not at all.
Thanks. So basically, since about the beginning of the pandemic, the Boulder County Chamber has been hosting these economic recovery meetings, which I've been attending sometimes once a week, sometimes more, just kind of depending on where we're at. One of the things we've done lately is we had an exploratory committee that was looking at this 5-star certification program, which is a program put forth by the CDPHE, so the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment. And it is up to the counties to actually opt in if they're interested in being able to make it possible for businesses to qualify for this 5-star certification. And what that means is that it would encourage businesses to put in place safety measures beyond what's actually already required by the public health orders, especially in relations to the color code that the county is in. And then if the county decides that they want to do this, which it would need to be presented to the county commissioners, the Boulder County Public Health would need to weigh in, I believe the sheriff's office. There's several players who would have to weigh in and actually agree that it was a good idea. Then an application would be sent to the CDPHE. If Boulder County is approved, then what would happen is businesses could apply for the 5-star certification, which could result in them operating with less restrictions. Now, it's a very intense program. I want to make that really clear. The criteria are extremely stringent. The idea is that it's a way to reward the businesses that are doing a really good job of going beyond, above and beyond what the public health requirements are, where they're at. And that my understanding is every 8 weeks, any business that's certified would be reevaluated. And of course, if there were issues in place, they'd need to be addressed. It's possible that you could lose your certification. Also, businesses that are not abiding by the public health laws would not be eligible to apply for this certification. The way Boulder County is looking at how to address this program is to put an administrative group together. And that administrative group would be the body that makes the decisions on what is this going to look like, you know? So the steps basically to go through this process would be to form the administrative committee, determine the financial resources to implement that did not come from public health, because public health has made it really clear they don't have the bandwidth and the resources to be the ones implementing, organizing this type of a program. And then develop a plan for compliance and enforcement that would include live inspections, and we would be able to use a third-party vendor. Then there would be a plan for applications. There would be trainings, especially for inspectors. We would be tracking, you know, what's going on with the different businesses, and then submit a variance application to CDPHE with supportive letters from the commissioner, sheriff, and county hospitals. So, like I said, it's a pretty intense process, and it's meant to be so that you know, we keep everybody safe, and we do the great job we've already been doing in Nederland to keep our numbers so low. So the administrative committee is different than the exploratory committee, which I'm on. They are actually looking for applicants in the municipalities, and I did send the application to some of our staff, as well as to the executive director, and I believe the chair of the DDA as well, to see if anybody would be interested in joining that committee. So what they're looking for, they hope to have their first meeting, I believe, on January 7th of this full committee. What they're hoping, though, is to get input from elected officials, governing bodies, in regards to, do you even think this is something that you would support our town taking a part in? And I think Summer Laws is on the call. Summer, are you on the call? Maybe that's a different Summer. But I was going to say Summer Laws, who works in with the Boulder County Commissioners, has been really a driving force in this. But I think she must not be on the call. So anyways, that's it in a nutshell. And I'm just looking for feedback. Is this something that you would be interested in having available to the businesses? So in a nutshell, to be able to apply to go to less restrictive orders based on the success of their own safety measures that are in place. And now I open it up to you all for questions or comments.
And so just to clarify, Karen, who judges, who, like a restaurant applies and says, hey, we've done what we need to do to go to be 5-star certified. Is it the town that goes in and verifies, or the county? Or
you know what, I should go to the next couple slides, because the other thing that's really interesting is that we're talking about using H2 manufacturing solutions. They're a third-party vendor. They've been involved in setting up safety protocol since, and I think actually prior to the pandemic. They're leaders in the industry, and so they would be helping this administrative group kind of put this process in place. They would be helping to train and provide technical support to this sort of team of inspectors, and the way they would get paid is through a fee that would be charged to the businesses. Now that's still being worked out. It's been talked about being, $75 to $150, but don't quote me on that. That's all still being determined. But that's where that administrative group plays a role. That's where the H2 Solutions plays a role, and the inspectors. As I said, it's a very layered and complex program, but that is on purpose, to make sure that everything's being done in a safe manner. And as far as the town could, somebody from, and it could actually be an elected official who could apply to be on this administrative team.
Trustees, thoughts? I'll just call it. Trustee Apt, what's your feeling on the 5-star and if the?
I like the idea. I think anything we can do to help businesses bring in more customers and do it safely and help them survive these times would be a good thing. I guess it's just a question of implementation details. So I like the idea.
Okay. Eric?
I mean, I like the idea of businesses being able to open at a one threat level lower. The only reservation I have is that this puts yet another kind of administrative and bureaucratic burden on those businesses to meet these requirements and to fill out the damn application form. And I really do think it's a shame to do it that way. And that even in rewarding small businesses, we find a way to punish them, which is really a shame. I understand that it's hard to see how else you could do it, but I do wish that there was a little more effort on the county side to kind of reach out to places more proactively and take a lot of this administrative burden off of small businesses. So if there's any opportunity to say that in any meetings, I'd love if that were said.
Trustee Coombs Ismail, I just want to make it clear that this is a CDPHE
right
program, so we have to follow at the state level.
No, I understand.
Okay, good, thanks.
Jonathan.
Wow, I think Eric said it beautifully. I like the idea of this. It almost seems like it would just be one more burden for some of our business owners. So I could go either way because I would question how many of our business owners would want to take, one other application fee and inspection every 8 weeks on top of just trying to keep up right now. I am a little bit wary of it. So I think Combs and Smell said it perfectly. I would be in support of continuing discussions on this, and I would kind of like to see it brought up at the DDA meeting on the 13th and get some of the other business owners' perspectives on it.
Okay.
And it has all been sent to them, so hopefully they will broach that subject.
Lindsay.
Yeah. Would it be possible for us to pay for the application fees to kind of help our own businesses? I mean, I know we've been doing a lot as a town to keep them afloat, and I like the idea of the 5-star certification, but $100 for a business that is barely staying open, that might be too much. And so I'm wondering if we could be able to pay that for our businesses.
I don't really think the county or the state would care who's paying for it, but you just have to make sure you have it in your budget. I don't know if you could use CARES dollars for this, but that's a good question I could ask. I don't know how much we have left, or if there's an opportunity to get more at this point, or if the DDA is able to qualify for some more funding. That would take some research.
Okay. And did we have some more money left over, that $5,000 that we had for PPE and other things, or has that all been used up now?
That's all been used now.
Okay.
For PPE. So there's another large order of PPE before the year ended, which I'm expecting to receive over the next couple weeks. And then we'll be giving out gloves, hand sanitizer, and more masks to businesses.
Okay. Yeah, I think for me, I would just be interested in knowing if we can find funds, or if we can apply current grants to help these businesses cover the application costs.
And there may be an opportunity for the businesses themselves to get grants, because I know there's a bunch of grants that have just opened up for businesses for COVID-related expensive. And again, I would have to do some research, but it's possible that there might be some funds out there for businesses to be the ones applying for and receiving that money.
And I believe the county just opened up another program, right?
They did. I know they opened one for PPE, but I think there might be another one as well.
I think it was generalized.
Yeah, but this is great feedback, and this is what I'll give back to the exploratory committee. You know, everything you're saying, I'm taking good notes.
Tanya?
Hi. Yeah, $100 is a lot for an application fee. Is that correct? Did I hear that correctly?
As I said, it's been bounced around 75, 100. They don't know yet. They haven't even put the committee together yet. And the first meeting would be January 7th. And it's not clear to me if that's just a one-time fee that you would pay, and you would not have to pay anything for the every 8 weeks, you know, kind of reinvestigation, just to make sure you're following everything correctly.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it would be great if we could find a way to come up with some money to help the businesses, maybe 50% or something, because that is a big application fee. From a consumer standpoint, I like the idea of being able to travel around Boulder County and see the 5-star and think to myself, okay, this might be a place that I want to go inside, because Boulder County Public Health has done the work for me, and I know that they're complying. Because you know, from a consumer standpoint, I think a lot of people maybe don't go out because they don't trust what's going on behind the scenes. So I mean, I kind of like that idea of it, but I do agree that it is another burden, particularly the application fee. And I think a lot of businesses wouldn't even bother applying if it is a really stringent, you know, like they might not even have a chance of getting it. But I don't know. I mean, that's just part of being a small business owner, or, you know, being anybody who's looking for money, is filling out these applications. And it's a cool idea. I think it's a cool idea, and I like it. For me, if I was out wanting to go out to eat, I would probably only go to the 5-star places if I had the opportunity to. So that's all I got to say.
Okay. Thank you, Karen. I heard about this a couple weeks ago. This started showing up in the mayor's telecons. We actually had a telecon with Governor Polis when he was introducing the 5-star. But at that point, there weren't any counties that were even eligible to start looking at it. So it's good to see us moving in this direction. And I think there are a lot of questions out there in terms of implementation and process. I think you've gotten those questions tonight, Karen.
I do. I have great feedback. Basically supportive, just concerned about the fee that the businesses would have to pay and the burdensome nature of the process.
Yep. Well, I have no doubt we'll be hearing about this at lots of the meetings you and I attend, and we'll keep on top of it and return everything we hear to the Board of Trustees and see if there's a way that Nederland can move. Point. Any other comments or questions from the board before we move on to other business? Does anyone from the board have any other business?
Actually, this is Alan. I have some other business.
All right, Alan, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I've mentioned previously that Garrett McDaniel found a low-income solar garden being put together by Boulder County, and it's aimed at low-income people. We have 13 people in Nederland that are pre-qualified. They have already applied for energy assistance for the utility bills, so there shouldn't be too much trouble in getting those 13 people approved. The number of people per town is up in the air because the solar garden has to be distributed across the whole county. Now, the Dave Hachamoji said recently at a meeting that, at an SAB meeting, that we could potentially get more people covered in Nederland if ourselves and contribute to the solar garden or farm. And I asked him to let us know how much money he was talking about per person, or what kind of investment that would require to expand that. He hasn't gotten back to us yet. At the same time, he put me in touch with other people who are with the county, and they are in the energy assistance business. In other words, their primary focus is helping people with their utility bills, people who can't pay or who are struggling. And one thing that Dave pointed out, the data seems to indicate that we have a lot of people who are paying a third of their income for their utilities. So that means two things. One, their income's low, and two, they may not be living in a very energy efficient house. And of course, some of that may be people who are renting. And of course, there's free weatherization available for low-income folks, whether they're in their own home or whether they're in a rental. So that's something we can explore as well. Long story short, what I like to bring back to the board on some future date, get everybody to think about it, is can we come up with some money to put into the pot to help more people get qualified for solar. The solar energy is less expensive than the blend we're getting to sell right now. So the 13 people will get approximately a 40% reduction, minimum of 30%, possibly as high as 50%, but pick a middle number, 40% reduction in their utility bills, which is substantial. And it costs them nothing. The ideas we kicked around, and then, so this is the solar garden, and that's one short-term opportunity that's coming up, quickly. And what I like to do is write a letter to the editor for the Mountaineer and put it on Facebook and let people know about this opportunity. So in case there are people who have not applied for energy assistance that live in Nederland, they should do so they can get qualified. So we should publicize this. The other piece of this is after this opportunity is gone, let's see if we can get some money for it. Short term, maybe we want to think about investing in solar for low or moderate income people, making town funds available for people who want to buy solar panels or provide solar panels. And a couple ideas we kicked around at the SAB were, one, selling carbon credits, the carbon offsets. In other words, you can go on a website and you can calculate what your carbon footprint is per year for your household, for yourself. And let's say you decide you want to offset that carbon. It might cost you $50 for the year. And you could buy that carbon credit from somebody who then would invest in renewable energy to offset your carbon. So one idea I had was, why not have a Nederland carbon offset program where people could buy the carbon offset from us. The money goes into a pot, and then we distribute that to people who are low income or moderate income who want to invest in renewable energy. So that's one idea. Another idea was a real estate transfer fee or tax. Bill has this, Garrett found this. And in Vail, 1% of the sale of a home goes into a fund, which is then used to fund renewable energy. Now we have a secondary goal of getting to 100% by 2025. That would help to further our goal. Now the real estate transfer fee is probably a tax and probably has to go before voters. That's just a guess. But, and maybe we don't, maybe there'd be objections to a fee like that, or a tax of 1% when you're selling a home. So everyone on the SAB was supportive except one person. And the other idea was, well, maybe it only applies to homes that are worth $500,000 and or more. Anything under that would not apply. So there's some ideas that I wanted to bring before the board, and maybe we can make this an agenda item for the future. But this opportunity with the solar gardens happening quickly, so I thought I should bring it up under other business and let you know about it. Does anybody have any questions?
How quickly would we have to make a decision about the solar garden? You said it's happening quickly, but is that next meeting? Is that February?
I suspect that's going to have to be in February. Yeah.
Okay.
And I will hopefully get more information from Dave and the other people involved in it in the next day or two. And then get the information we can get to the community so we can get potentially more people applying who can get in, you know, without us contributing anything. But Dave was not optimistic that we'd get much more than 13 without any contribution. And it does look like we have people that
I think you should put this in writing. I don't really follow exactly what's going on. If you could send an email kind of explaining what you're talking about in some detail and what actions that we need to do for this.
Okay, yeah, I'll send out an email.
You kind of lost.
I have, and then we can go from there. And if anybody has any questions, you can.
Well, and the other thing we could do is add it to a future agenda item, and then trustee Apt could work with staff to create an aim and include all the attachments so you have all the information available and have a discussion about it.
I think it sounds like we might have enough interest in the item in general to get it onto a future agenda. But let's we need to get some information, or I guess Alan, you're waiting for information to find out when that timing would be.
Right.
So
and
I think that's
do we need a nod of 3 tonight. Move this forward. Or?
I think we just need 2 of us, so I think we got that.
Okay.
So we can bring it forward as a discussion item in the future, and you know, prepare aims and the details. But we need to figure out the timing issue as well. So
yeah, any information I have in the meantime, I'll forward it to the board.
Sounds good.
Okay, thank you.
Just remember to abide by the sunshine laws.
Right. Don't
reply.
Yeah, when I send it out, don't reply at all.
Yep. Any other business? Not. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
We have several seconds. Miranda.
Mayor Larson,
Yes.
trustee Apt,
Yes.
trustee Danforth,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Baumhover,
Yes.
trustee Coombs Ismail,
Yes.
trustee Corvallin.
Yes.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful evening, and talk to you all again soon.
Sounds good. You have a good night.
Good night.